So, Mark, can you share with us the numbers as to how many casualties have been confirmed so far and how many are still being verified?
Yes, as of this afternoon, Ms. Riza, we have received a new batch of reports coming from our counterparts in the local government unit disaster managers. The total number of reported casualties are as follows. We have received report of 31 people who have been reported killed by the storm, and then 3 injured and 1 missing. These are all, out of the 31, 27 of these reported dead are still for validation, and we were able to confirm 4 fatalities as of this morning. So at the NDRRMC level, our confirmed casualty are 4 fatalities, but the total reported casualties are 31 dead, 3 injured, and 1 missing as of this point.
Sir, how about the search and rescue operations? Do we have an update on it?
Yes, we're waiting for a confirmation on the possible termination or on the conduct of the search and rescue operations in some areas, because the weather is generally improving in the areas that the storm had passed over. But so far, we have received a total count of evacuated populations amounting to 309,814. These individuals are staying inside evacuation centers. We're using 2,283 evacuation centers as of this night's reporting. And there are some of our evacuated populations who did not opt to stay inside evacuation centers and decided to stay with their relatives in safer places. The total count is 19,033. These are all coming from Mimaropa, the Bicol region, Region 6, Western Visayas, Region 8, Eastern Visayas, Region 10, Region 11, Caraga, and the Bangsamoro Autonomous Region in Macin, Mindanao, Ms. Riza. The effort for the restoration...
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, ma'am. The effort for the restoration of power continues in a lot of locations, as well as the efforts to restore mobile communications in the various affected areas. I'd like to report as well that the Office of Civil Defense was able to send its emergency telecommunications team. 2 of our staff have arrived in Siargao this morning, and we were able to establish satellite communications with the local government of Siargao. Our meeting with the Siargao officials was just concluded a few minutes ago, and we were able to see the impact of the storm in the actual location that the satellite equipment has been deployed in the airport in Siargao, the domestic airport, and we were able to discuss updates with the Siargao officials this afternoon. Yes,
Sir, we understand communication is a challenge right now, but do we have an estimate already on as to how much is the estimate damage on infrastructure and, of course, houses?
So far, we have received report of 20 houses that had been damaged by the storm. But with regard to the impact in agriculture, as well as damage to infrastructure and roadways and bridges, we're still waiting for the actual computation being done by our assessors. If you remember, the assessment has just started by yesterday. But a lot of our assessors are still looking into the damages, because the extent of the damage is quite large in communities. We have deployed drones, as well as sought the assistance of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. The Eastern Mindanao Command of the Armed Forces of the Philippines had committed to use their Black Hawk helicopters to assist us in the assessment. We're hoping that in tonight's continuing reporting, we will be able to receive figures on the more damages for infrastructure and agricultural items.
So as reported, there are plenty of areas that has or is experiencing power outages. Do we have a timeline on maybe when can power and perhaps cell signals can be restored in these areas, especially in Visayas and Mindanao?
So far, we're waiting for the timelines that would come from our counterparts in the NGCP and the local power cooperatives, as well as our telco partners who have cell towers in those areas. But during the meeting with the president last night, we heard that they're committed to ensure that all efforts will be done to ensure the restoration of those services at the soonest possible time. Especially, there are multiple considerations on, for example, the vaccine, the storage of the vaccines that will be deployed in the continued rollout of the vaccination program, as well as the continuing communication between the civilian population that had been affected by the storm.
So you mentioned earlier about the people and the affected families that are in the evacuation area. Can we also get an update perhaps on the assistance that they are receiving?
Yeah, the relief items for the evacuated population had been received as early as during the time of their arrival in the evacuation centers. We received information that some local government units are already asking for augmentation supply for their family food packs. And the national government having prepositioned family food packs and other non-food items in various warehouses in the country are already mobilizing to have these redistributed to those local governments. If you remember, during our briefing on the preparations done for this storm, we have prepared logistical support for all those warehouses coming from the Armed Forces of the Philippines, our counterparts there, and also from the air freighter, land freighter, and sea freighter services in the private sector that we have commissioned for these particular functions. The NDRRMC has committed to have all of these items delivered at the soonest possible time so that we can allay the concerns of our local government units. A family food pack usually lasts 2 to 3 days. And if we look at it, we are at the second day of the evacuation activities. So by tomorrow we're hoping that there will be continued distribution of the relief items.
So, Mark, before we wrap up our interview, is there any other message or update that you would like to give, especially for those who has relatives and families in the affected areas, and perhaps until now they are not able to communicate with them?
Yes, the effort to restore mobile communications for the use of our civilian population continues. And we're hoping that this will be completed at the soonest possible time. But if there are concerns on the condition of our countrymen in those areas, our countrymen situated in other areas of the country can actually post their messages in the NDRRMC through our Facebook account so that we can relay those items and requests to the local government units and disaster councils that have jurisdiction over those areas that we are inquiring on. The NDRRMC is fully committed to provide services not only for relief and search and rescue operations, but also to ensure that all of those affected populations will be able to get back on their feet after the onslaught of Typhoon Odette.
Well, thank you, Sir Mark, for sharing with us those information and those updates. That was Mr. Mark Timbal of the NDRRMC.